Welcome to the Apex Racing TV Weekly Roundup podcast, your surefire way of keeping up to date with all of Apex Racing TV's broadcasted series. This week, we discuss the SimRacersWorld Endurance Championship, the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Championship, and the Apex Racing League GT Championship. So let's get into the action with your hosts Sam Fitzpatrick and Marco Barbanera. Welcome once again, Marco, to the Apex Racing TV Weekly Roundup podcast. We've come to the end of Season 1 of 2020, the penultimate week of the season, the penultimate podcast we will do. But fortunately, some series are coming to an end, but we're going to focus on a few series which are middle of the season. And there's going to be some very interesting season finales coming up next week.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Hello everyone. Hello Sam. Nice to be back. And it's going to be action-packed episode as always. With of course, like you were saying, some series endings, some series getting in the midway point, and other, of course, the new build is coming very very soon, just around the corner.
Absolutely. So I'm sure the series that we're going to talk about have already been mentioned in the introduction. And of course, do look at the description if you want to jump to any of the series. That will be in the description. The timestamps are there. First up will be the SimRacersWorld Endurance Championship, Marco. The first race that we've covered on this in about 5 weeks since Daytona. And it was at the Road America circuit. Certainly a tricky place to race at. I mean, it was difficult to tell what race we were kind of expecting because Barcelona, massive run-off areas. Daytona, the driving standards were again superb. But it was an absolutely awesome race from Daytona. So we had kind of high expectations for the competitiveness in each of the classes.
And it was, I think, being the halfway point of the season, and of course, the big change that will happen after this round with the new tire model, and of course, the GT4 class coming. It seemed like the closing of the first chapter of this championship, and what better place than Road America, of course, to close it. We had decent numbers in GT3. Small but very competitive fields in TCR and the Porsche Cup. And I'd say that the guys did not disappoint us. There were some especially tough battles. I have to say that the TCR class was absolutely amazing. The Porsche Cup class was very close, but sadly, of course, as we will say, one of the contenders got penalized by the rules, but without that penalty, which was, by the way, 100% correct. It was A, a great effort from the driver, B, a very, very close fight until the end. And as per usual, the format of endurance with laps meant that we didn't really know how long the race was going to go, but at the same time, meant that these drivers had to complete all their laps. There was no, safety cars, no way to cheat, quote unquote, on the 1,000 kilometer distance. It was a proper enduro, and we thoroughly enjoyed it. So let's start with the recap.
Yes, and on pole position in the overall and of course in the GT3s were Fury Simsport, who have been ever so strong so far this season. Meraki Black and Nomad were in second and third. By the way, I've written a lot of notes for the GT3 class, so apologies if anything is missing out, but a lot happened in the first kind of 2 hours, and this is some of what happened. So T3 Esports, in the early stages, Abruzzi got hit off by SimRacersWorld at turn 3. We thought the series, of course, Abruzzi, the title sponsor of the SimRacersWorld Endurance Series, so slightly ironic and a little bit tense there, but they've got used to racing one another, those two teams. But it was a little bit of a bad mistake from SimRacersWorld. They hit off Abruzzi, who needed repairs that really dropped them down. And honestly, the kink was a massive trouble in the opening stages. So Boland, in the Meraki blue car, went into the wall at the kink when trying to overtake the Fury TCR. I think it was just side-on contact in the end, so they kind of got away with it. but it was very much a tricky moment that. Stage 1 Racing Red were running really well, up in 3rd position in the opening stages. And going into Canada Corner, they went for, well, in hindsight, a not very smart move. And they went off the circuit on the outside onto the grass and could not stop before they hit the barrier. So that was them out of the race. They were buried in that barrier as well. I think they managed to actually get back out on circuit, but of course, several laps down, which was a massive shame, seeing that they could have perhaps fought for a second place. Dynamics Racing Green were the first team to pair, and they tried a bit of an alternative strategy where they evened out the 5 or 6 stints. I think it was 5 stints that the drivers did. And they didn't take tyres at every single stop, and it seemed to work really well. They were running up in second place, or even took the lead at one point. But it was it was probably the wise strategy from them. Not too many teams tried that. Fury Silver spun out from 7th place at turn 2, about an hour and a half into the event. Nomad also spun at the kink, and I believe the Dynamics team got involved in that one and sustained even more damage, trying to avoid the crash. And in the end, RSR just about caught up Meraki right at the end of the race. That was for 2nd position. And after 1,000 kilometers, those two were separated by about a second. But in the end, RSR not quite being able to get past Meraki. But out in the lead market, it was an incredible performance from Fury Simsport. I believe they lost out at Daytona, only managing to get 2nd place. That was a very good performance from them. But honestly, that performance from them on Sunday was pretty insane. They were 1 lap clear, even more than a lap, but I mean more like a lap and a half clear of the rest of the field. They're just absolutely on top form, Matthew Dorrington and Chris Warner, and they've got quite a comfortable lead in the championship now.
I mean, that was a dominant performance by Fury, and I thought they were going to be there for the victory in the end, but not by this incredible margin. Of course, one of the GT team of Rev Match was not there, but that doesn't mean that this victory is less important or less, brilliant achievement, because we need to judge by who is in on the track, not by who is not on the track. And the Rev Match drivers were certainly busy with real life commitments. That being said, I mean, Fury ran away with it and never looked back. It was a big performance. Who knows if they're going to be able? I'm expecting the Spa race to be massively attended. One of the home tracks of the SimRacersWorld group, of course, together with Zolder and Branzaccio, and of course GT4 is going to be there, etc. And of course, if you are listening to us, they are still. The entries are still open for all the classes, but especially the new GT4 class will be, very welcome if you want to join in that class as well. So what can we say, Sam? Fury certainly had a very good showing in the Pro Championship last season, and now they are having a good show in this season as well. But more importantly, they are really establishing themselves as a possible title contender in this championship. Remember that we only have 6 rounds, so being halfway home, it's a good start for them. Now, of course, there will be the question mark of the new tire model coming up next, but that's another story. So congratulations to them, because that was, sometimes it happens in the endurance. I mean, you can have endurance races where the fight is very close, like we had in Daytona, and others where the fight for the lead was, absolutely dominated by one of the participants, and this was clearly the case with Fury lapping everyone by at least 1 lap. Congratulations to Meraki and RSR on the podium, 2nd and 3rd, respectively. If there is a big regret for me, I was very excited by Nomad. They were going very strongly up until that crash, and I was expecting a lot from them. Sorry, was not expecting. They've been having a tough season both here and in the Pro Series, but that was a very good start for them. Sadly, the crash just at the end of the opening stint, which was a double stint to be precise, by their opening driver just as he was about to give the car to Ryan Walker. That completely destroyed their momentum, unfortunately. But they know that they have the pace. We'll see in Spa.
Yes, and so the final standings were a few SimSport winning out, Meraki Racing Black in second, RSI Esports, like I said, nearly caught them up in third. Luke the Esports car, I don't think that was far off. I think a late pit stop or something. But they were fourth, and of course were joint leaders in the championship. It was a good recovery to be fair from T3, who started nearer to or nearly outside the top 10, I believe. And then Kobe Clays for Dynamics Racing Green, like I said, that good strategy, yielding them a fifth position, 2 laps down, pretty much half the teams there retiring after an incredible attrition rate at Daytona and Barcelona. It was surprising to see that many drivers go out of those, particularly as early on as many of them did. In the Porsche Cup class, then, less notes on this because it was a bit of a 2-horse battle on the most parts between RevMatch and RSR, of course. So I believe on the grid, RSR were ahead of RevMatch. So it was actually a pretty good position for them starting. However, RevMatch managed to take the lead pretty early on, made a little bit of a gap, and then there was a bit of a controversial Canada corner incident where RevMatch spun ahead. RSR took evasive action, hit the wall themselves. They took the lead, but maybe a little bit of damage on that car, and RevMatch managed to get back past. It looked like it was going to be quite a comfortable victory anyway for RevMatch. Apologies. Also, there was another spin for RSR a few laps later as well when they were fighting, which gave RevMatch the lead. And they were pulling away. It looked like it was going to be a decent win for them. RSR a little bit out of sync with the pit stops, but we're just going to miss out by about half a minute, I believe. But then, of course, they did not change tires or did not change drivers, sorry, across the event. So Justin Rame did the entire race, and it really was a shame, I must say, Mark. I think Rame did a brilliant job driving out there. I mean, that's tricky to race out there. It would be really interesting to know if he thought that he was going to have a teammate for that race, because if he did have his teammate with him, I think RSR would have certainly been able to take the race to rev match.
Yeah, I think. I mean, that was a fantastic effort to drive for almost 6 hours on his own. And Caden Bean was about to join, and for a second jumped.
He was in the session, wasn't he?
Yeah, jumped in the jumped in the car and during one of the pit stops, but then he told no, sorry, he went back out of the car. I think he had a electrical failure at his home, if I'm not mistaken. So they had to go back to um, they had to go back to the to Justin Ram, and man, that was a fantastic effort. Fortunately, it was outside of the rules, and they got I think fourth place in the end, thanks to the penalty out of 5, because Van Leib, of course, and Bruzzi were 95 laps down. And
I don't think they'll score points though.
yeah, I don't think exactly. So unfortunate, but that's the way the rules are clear. You need to have no more than than 2 drivers, and no less than 2. So you need to have 2 drivers. So unfortunately, that's the way it worked.
Yeah, and it's certainly a sensible rule, and it is a teams championship after all. So yeah, massive shame. But like we were saying, Justin Rame, brilliant drive, but finishing in fourth place. So Craig Jones for SCC Racing, they were promoted. Jones and his teammates, Joe Cohen, I think he was his co-driver for that one. So they were promoted into second place, and then Stage 1 Racing were promoted up into third. Those were the only finishers of that. As you were saying, Marco, Abruzzi Esports Cup did not finish that race. So again, slightly small Porsche Cup field, which is a shame because It's such a fantastic car. But to be fair, last time at Daytona, it was mega competitive for second place. This time, it was competitive for first place on the most part. So it certainly hasn't been short in action. Certainly, if you do want to check out the Porsche Cup class, that would certainly be a recommendation of us to check out. And in the TCRs, I think probably produced the best battle for the win, at least. On pole position was T3 Esports. Fitzdie and Pork Freak were in second and third for that one. And that was kind of the story of the race with those three teams dominating out ahead. It was T3 Esports were leading, of course, early on. Went wide though at turn one and gave up the lead. Fell to about 5 seconds behind, but they managed to catch that up within the first stint, which kind of was an indication of the pace that they had. And then for the next probably 2 hours, those three teams absolutely glued to one another. But crucially, T3 never really led. They're always in second in the line, getting loads and loads of slipstream, and it really helped them out with the pit stops because they were able to at least get close to doing one less stop. It was a shame though that Talk Freak retired with about 2 hours of the race remaining. Strangely pulled into the pits and towed back, and they were not seen again. Tim Clarson's, I believe, in the car at the time. And that meant that it was a straight race between T3 Esports and Fitzdie. However, TechSense Fitzdie Motorsport lost the tow and gradually dropped to about 10 seconds behind and really couldn't put any pressure on T3, who were absolutely superb. The 308 car with barely any mistakes. Both teams did have to pit very late on. Texans Fitzdie Motorsport losing time near the closing stages, lifting and coasting, trying to only make 4 pit stops, I believe, across the race. But in the end, they did have to make a fifth. And I think T3 Esports, just as a security measure, seeing their rivals pit the lap prior, decided to pit with 1 lap to go. So it was T3 Esports Alpha winning out ahead of TechSense Fitzdie Motorsport. Racing Centre Vib 3 Sports finished in third on the podium, and Fury Sim Sport TCR finishing in fourth. Talk Freak Racing and Rev Match Academy did not finish the race. In fact, actually, Talk Freak might get points. They were 49 laps down. They completed about 80 laps of the race, so they might still score points for that one, the 307 machine. But yeah, that was insane, Mike. I mean, to see a endurance race like that where between hours kind of 1 and 4, it was just drafting. They were so close to one another, and they had a remarkable lack of contact between those three leaders, T3 Esports, Fitzdie Motorsports, and Talk Freak Racing.
Yeah, I'm absolutely sad about Torque Freak because that was a strange way to be out. Probably we speculated his teammate maybe was not going to join, so he decided to park the car, but played perfectly by the eventual race winners. And too bad because we heard after the race the voices from the Texans guys. They were a bit dejected because they knew they had a good strategy, but it was fundamental that they had the draft. They didn't have it in the end, and so they lost the opportunity to win. Tough race for Fury because they crashed, I think, straight away and never really recovered from that mistake. And we were missing the Meraki TCR car. Hopefully, they are back in the next round. I think Mr. Hopley was talking with us in the chat during the race, so hopefully they will be back for the next one. But TCR was absolutely great, and then we had the curse of the TCR cars,
Oh
of
yeah,
course.
jeez.
Everyone who tried, or not even try to lap them. Everyone who came close to the 3 TCR leaders. There was like a 1 hour moment where everyone who came close to them forgot how to drive. Basically, to be fair, the TCR cars never really interfered with anyone else. It's just that people got a bit too anxious to get past them, and some of the bigger crashes, some of the bigger race changing crashes of the of the race happened around those three TCR leaders, and they also realized that in the interview we were saying that they were, a bit. It was getting almost quote unquote comical because every time someone went around them, ended up ended up in the wall. So that was but to see these TCR cars pushing each other NASCAR style on the straights for the second time running, because they did the same in Daytona as well. And they are lucky, we are not, because I would have loved to see the new damage model in the next round, but sadly, yes, GT4s will have new damage models, so TCR, but no GT3s, and so for these enduro events, everyone will have the old damage model, unfortunately.
Oh, well, that's a shame.
It really is.
Um, oh, what about the Porsche? So the Porsche will get it, will it?
The GT. Oh
The
yeah,
Cup
also
car, sorry.
no, yeah, also the Porsche will not have it. So yeah,
Ah, okay, right.
but it
Yeah.
just only needs one car to not have it, and they all revert to the old damage model basically.
Yeah. Well, that is a shame because it would be fascinating. However, the Audi at the moment is really good for endurance racing. It is so tricky to break that it means that it can survive a lot, and we see a lot more finishes, which is very good. So Texans Fitzlow Motorsport then leading the championship, 111 points for them. T3 Esports Alpha move up into second with 77, and Fury Sim Sport TCR are in third position. So quite a gap to catch up to Texans Fitzlow Motorsport, who are finished in the top two in every single round. So far, 1 win and 2 second places, and along with a fastest lap as well, which you get a bonus point for. Riv Match Academy, of course, not present, so they've got a lot of catching up to do now, missing that round of the championship. Of course, we've really built it up, the GT4 class, going into the next round, but also a word on Spa, using the endurance pits as well, which I was shocked by, Marco, and I think one of the massive elements for that race is going to be the off tracks. Of course, going to have 30 incidents. For every 30 incidents, you get a drive-through penalty, or even a stop-go penalty. A stop-go penalty around that place with the length of that pit lane is probably going to cost you probably 45 seconds. So if you can limit the off tracks, you are going to be in a great position to get a good result in that race.
100% correct. You have to enter in the pits from the bus stop, and then you exit basically coming out of the Eau Rouge Raidillon complex. So it's a long trek all the way, and I mean, these drivers will have to be super careful, because I don't think that the standard of incidents will change. It will be always the same number of incident points before you get the penalty, the dreaded penalty. Therefore, Sam, I think we will have to keep an eye. You will have to keep an eye on it quite a bit during the Spa race, because it could really affect and probably will the final outcome of the race.
Definitely. So that will be on. Oh, now I've got to get the calendar up. I think it's 3 weeks from now. Next round is on March the 22nd. So 3 weeks. And if you want to sign up, of course, certainly do, because it's a really fun championship. Honestly, some of the stuff we talked about on the broadcast. I mean, why wouldn't you want to be involved in a championship like that about squash and Phil Mitchell? Absolutely incredible. Apologies for that production, by the way. For anyone who listened, I'm sure people lost intelligence, I imagine, listening to our comments. But no, it was a really good broadcast. Thanks to all the drivers and the teams for putting on such a great show. And of course, yeah, round 4 of the championship. You can sign up on the SimRacersWorld.com website. And yeah, that will be on in 3 weeks' time. The second series we will chat about is the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Championship, of course. And this time it was at Sebring, the penultimate round of the championship, the final round of the endurance, basically stage of the season. We've had a lot of endurance rounds recently because of the fact that Bathurst had to be reduced to 45 minutes. So I think we've had like 3 90-minute races in 4 rounds, which is quite a lot of driving for the drivers to deal with. But it was once again a very good meeting. And on pole position for the meeting was Martin Crisp, I believe his first pole position that I've seen him get at least. Brandon Nash in second place. Pearson and Hupperts, who were top 2 in the Endurance Cup, were starting in third and fourth. There was a safety car straight away within half a lap involving Nigel Pearson, actually. Nigel Pearson? Or am I mixing him up with
Leicester City
Leicester
manager?
City
Former Leicester City
manager?
manager.
But, yeah, apologies. Watford now, is it?
I think so, yeah.
What is his? It's Neil Pearson, not Nigel. That's close enough. All right. Neil Pearson. Apologies, Neil. It was fun early on in lap one, which caused a safety car, and then there was another safety car about quarter of an hour into the race. This messed up the strategy so much, and it caused much confusion for us. Me and Marco were watching this, and yet we were still thinking, what's going on in this? I was constantly nagging the commentators. What's going on here? Who still needs to pit? Because of course 2 pit stops mandatory. You have to change tires as well. And so my brain was absolutely blowing up. In the end, though, it was Timothy Theben who won out. He was holding off Morris and Luthwaite in the closing stages. Marco was a really good defensive drive. I always enjoy the meetings where it's tricky to overtake. I'd kind of almost prefer if we had a 10-minute battle to finish the race, that this driver in second place didn't get past, because I almost admire defensive driving more than aggressive driving. The fact that you can drive for such a long amount of time without making a mistake. And that is absolutely what Timothy Theben managed to do in the end. And Morris and Luther, it looks about 5 minutes to the end, they were going to be able to get past him, and yet just absolutely solid as anything from Morris to win that race.
I mean, it was controversial, of course, in the end with the collision between the pair of them. Race officials got Lightweight tagged him with a penalty. Now, to be fair, he redressed the position to his rival, but in the meantime, another driver got in between the pair of them, Jesse Butler, to be precise. Therefore, even with the redressing of the position, it was going to be a points loss no matter what for the number 966 of Matt Morris. Therefore, Ludwig got tagged with a penalty of 30 seconds, who brought him down to 10th place for the race. And of course, like you were saying, the Endurance Championship was decided on the last lap as well, because Pearson, who then finished in fourth, was okay, but he was not okay in championship-wise up until a last-minute pit stop from Nathan Hopperts, and that gave away. Because the white flag, of course, was taken by the leaders in a very tricky moment with a couple of seconds left on the clock. So iRacing always plays it safe when it works like this, and so everyone had to do the extra lap. And this cut out a couple of drivers, including Uppert. So Pearson gets that endurance title, and he also gets, if I'm not mistaken, a nice cash bonus for his efforts. So a voucher that he can spend from one of the series sponsors. I mean, that's pretty good for. I think it's 100 Australian dollars. Well deserved in the end, especially because you really cannot practice for an endurance around here. Everyone was ready for Bathurst, Sam, as you know, and everyone was pretty much used to run Bathurst, but that was changed to a traditional race, sprint race. So when you are racing around here for 1 hour and a half, all the bumps, the tough competition, it's really a tough race. So absolutely, congratulations to everyone who managed to bring it home. Congratulations to Pearson for the title in the endurance class. And now we have, of course, the the main title to give out. And Pearson is still looking very good in the top of the table.
Yeah, so we think at least that Pearson's got a decent gap over Luthway, about 100 points. Well, that can certainly come down though. I mean, I think that's maybe. I mean, if Luthwaite can win the race and Pearson finishes outside the top 5, I think that can potentially switch over. Only a 45-minute race though for the final round of the season. So less points, I think, on offer. But still, yeah, really good opportunity for Luthwaite still to come back. Matt Morris probably out of the question. Of course, it looks like Pearson's going to win his class. So, of course, we've got the 4 classes. I kind of refer to them as like the elite, and then the pros, and then the AMs and the rookies. And it looks like Pearson's going to win out the pros, Luthwaite and Morris fighting for the elites. And then Bartholomew is probably almost certainly actually he's got healthy advantage in the AMs. And Michael Whiting, who was very impressive as well at Sebring. I think he got like I think it was close to the top 10 was Whiting. He's actually 10th place overall as well. And he's top of the rookie, so it's looking very good for that driver. And of course, yeah, final round of the championship. We'll probably release this when the final round has already been completed. So we will probably talk about it next week, or at least give it a mention next week, because well, the championship finales usually are pretty good in this series. So lots of expectation going into the final round of the championship. You can find that on the iRacing Esports Network. So, before we talk about our last series, we'll talk about iRacing news and Apex Racing League news. And Michael, it's ramping up at the moment, the iRacing news, but we've pretty much got a good picture of what's going to be released. First up, I think the big news is the new damage model announcement. So we've already given a little bit of a hint about that. So TCR, GT1, GT2, and GT4 are all going to have the new damage model. Of course, we've seen that in action on the TCR cars and the GT4 cars. It's fantastic news. Of course, with these other cars, such as like or at least the other classes, such as GTE and GT3, it's very tricky to bring out the new damage model because, of course, you've got 4 times as much work doing all the different cars. But it will give us a good indication of how far the damage model has come in GT cars, because it'll be our first proper exposure to it besides the little demonstration videos we've seen.
Yeah, I'm a bit skeptical about this decision, to be honest, Sam, because despite these cars having, especially the GT ones, I'm talking about them having been one of the very first to get the new tire model a couple of builds back, it was still relatively a ghost town, and now it's a ghost town back again in the second season. So if they want to get some testing data, I'm not sure that GT1 and GT2 are the best places to go. I mean, maybe I would have done that in the BMW GT, since it has its own series, and you can keep the old damage model for the multi-class stuff, IMSA, and Le Mans series, and maybe use that for the for the sprint series. But at the same time, of course, the IMSA Pilot Challenge with GT4 and TCR will be the first series with more than one car having the both of the cars on the new damage model. So that certainly will be popular, I'm expecting. And I think our next race in the SimRacersWorld Endurance Series will be the first race with 4 classes, all 4 of them on the new tire model. So that's going to be great, even though a bit into the future. And of course, great excitement for the K&N car getting being the first NASCAR race car to have the new damage model. That's a super popular series with now races every hour. New tire model there as well. So that's a very big, and I think that car will come to AI as well. But that's just my wild prediction for this build. So yeah, that's one important thing coming. Another important thing coming. We saw the video coming out late on Friday evening on the 28th about the new and improved Texas Motor Speedway, which has been rescanned. The track changed; it has been repaved, and they have made some changes to turn one and turn two, which has been made flatter and wider. Therefore, it's going to be much more tricky, uh, you know, oval with some more personality compared to the boring, same banking, same corner, same width between turn one and turn two, turn three, turn four that we have in almost all of these mile and a half tracks in NASCAR. So that is a very, very, very welcome change, and I am all for that. And who knows what else we might get, of course. I'm expecting, like I said, oh well, of course we have some updates from for Road America. Did we talk about that in the previous?
Yeah, it's something about the curbs, wasn't it? But
Yes,
has
yes,
that actually
yes.
been confirmed?
Well, it is in some videos, so they made some little updates here and there. Probably they will make it to the to do the build if it's not a massive change. It will come. I don't know if the new Texas will be paid or free. We will have to discover just by waiting. Tuesday is just around the corner. A bit excited for this build. Of course, GT4 cars are been asked for quite a while now, and probably they will be super popular. Hopefully, they won't ruin the racing with the TCR cars, as I said many times. But yeah, cannot wait. And of course, in the next podcast, we will give an in-depth review and of the new content. Week 13 calendar is out, so we now have basically the the usual stuff, more or less. And yeah, that's it. I think for iRacing for iRacing's news and updates. Unless I'm missing something very big, this could be one of those uh, quote unquote transitional builds, even though there is tons of stuff coming as per usual, and of course the bug fixes and little improvements. It's what really makes every build, no matter the actual content that you can buy, makes it very important and always a big weight for us.
Yeah, of course, maybe some cars added to AI potentially, but of course that'll be rolled out during next season anyway. So not too maybe some oval AI would be quite nice, but not too much anticipation for that. But I mean, I know I'm not disappointed because of course the fact that you get basically a massive update to iRacing every or 4 times in a year is always very good, and I very much appreciate from iRacing. And often it's not the things that you can necessarily make videos on and write massive amounts on, which are necessarily the best things which are added. I mean, if you compare iRacing now to 18 months ago, for example, the graphics changes slowly being added over time. Not necessarily a whole lot of hype has been made out of those changes, and yet it's improved the game significantly, or the sim significantly. Anyway, so yeah, we'll be interested to see what other stuff they include as well. Of course, the sound model I think was meant to be added a while back. I don't know if they'll
Yeah,
start rolling that out a little bit, perhaps, but
yeah, it went quiet. They went quiet on that. Exactly, they've been
no,
working on it for a
bit of a
couple of years
bit of a
now.
joke there. Quiet sound
Oh
model.
man, no,
So
that no pun intended.
okay. But yeah, also a few new sectors. I don't know, but the thing is, if you don't get a whole lot of stuff one build, and then you get 3 times as much stuff on the next build. It kind of breaks even, doesn't it? So it's just about what's ready at this point. Not going to be the biggest build ever, but hopefully the others as well will be a bit more. And of course, with new damage model, new time model, these massive things coming to iRacing, gradually getting rolled out for each of the cars. But of course, hopefully you're looking forward to week 13. Maybe you're a massive fan of Texas Motor Speedway. Is there going to be a road course update for that, Mark?
At the moment, no.
Okay,
But
that's
you know, who knows? But of course, the old Texas will be made free, so that will now be
oh yeah.
and the road, yeah, 100%. So that road course will now be able to enter in the rotations of the free series. You know, the production car challenge, the MX5s, and all of that. So it might become a popular alternative, you know, because I have to say that when I started for the first couple of years, the free track selection was very stagnant, and the rookie series were getting a bit boring after a bit. But now that they have constantly expanded the free track portfolio, some of the more obscure road courses, especially, have become very fond of. So that's great, and of course, seeing that big number 5 next to my name now in my profile page makes me think I am really, really old, Sam.
Yeah, you really are. But I'm just looking at all the different road courses on Texas, and they're all pretty bad. Combines, it's not too bad. I
I
don't know.
mean, American Le Mans series was able to race there, so you know, I think if LMP1s, LMP2s were able to run there, probably it's going to be you know, okay for some smaller classes. By the way, Texas Motor Speedway. Now that I think about it, the road course, the combined road course and the long road course are both available on Project Cars 2. So yeah,
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
I've driven there a couple of times. It's an infield road course, and I will stop at that. You know, if you want to do a quick race without having to worry about learning a track, yeah, it's not like the Olmsted road course or you know, the New Hampshire road course. Completely no, we are not in the same ballpark. But you know, more free content. I don't complain with that.
Yes, definitely. So maybe 12 weeks of Le Mans days at Texas Motor Speedway next season? Sign us up. That maybe it could be a possibility, as you say, American Le Mans Series. I was there, so perhaps we'll be up on the roster. We will wait to see on that one. In Apex Racing League, finally, honestly, we have talked about it so much, and apologies to everyone that the announcement for the Apex Racing League Touring Car Championship has been delayed quite a bit. Few niggly things that we really wanted to get nailed down before we announced, just so that there wasn't any questions. So it is really up and ready now. Everything's prepared for the first race of the season. We have delayed the start of the season just by 1 week, so we'll start in season 2 of next season. And as we speak, the entries are about half filled. In fact, even more than half filled, by about 60%, climbing to 70% as we speak. So if you hopefully the entries are still open at this point, certainly do check out entry details. I think on they'll be available on the Apex Racing League Discord. I'll leave a link for that in the description. Also, Apex Racing TV Facebook page. You can check out entry details for that. Also, really the main way you should enter is the Apex Racing League website, which is really good looking now. Some nice shots as well. I think George Sims hoping to do a few more race reviews there, really good quality. So do check out Apex Racing League, and that will be the best way to sign up to that series. Maybe a couple of other things that we'll announce as well on Apex Racing League as well in the coming days. but certainly do keep your eyes or your ears tuned for that. Now, the final series we'll talk about is going to be the Apex Racing League GT Championship. Marco, a series that you've covered in the past this season, going back to just GTE cars. I say back to GTE cars. It was never GTE cars, but now it is GTE cars. Scrap the GT3s, just GTEs. And this time at Watkins Glen, and would hopefully be an all-right race. It didn't start very well. Didier Caroni managed to take pole position. And unfortunately, there was a massive pile-up though. Literally, as the green flag came out, I mean, it was a Snetton beat TCC moment where the man who was waving the green flag like nearly got decapitated. Massive
I
pile-up.
shouldn't laugh. I could be
No,
that guy one day, you know.
you know, seeing that I'm from Norfolk and that guy is from Norfolk, we're probably related. We're probably cousins. I mean, it's all just one big family up there. But that was a massive pile-up, unfortunately. Took out many drivers, he towed back to the pits. We were able to finish on the lead lap, actually, the majority of them, so it wasn't too bad. It was a really exciting race one, though. We had the battle between the Sats Light racing drivers. Anyone who's taken part in Le Mans knows how quick that team is. And also the Evo SR drivers, who have done very well in recent seasons in the Apex Racing League GT Championships. And Andre managed to get past Caroni. Managed to get past Andrea and Andre. Managed to get past Andrea and Caroni. Did Andre. So he managed to get into the lead from third on the grid. Caroni then spun when trying to avoid his teammates. Broke a little bit late and nearly crashed into him, but spun instead. And dropped down the order behind, I think got dropped down to like 9th place or something. But Andre managed to win the race in the end. It was a nice drive. Held off Anja for the win. Anja passed McMahon, I think, on the last lap to get second position. And it was Bob Humphrey who won out of the amateur drivers. I did have the standings. There you are. I've got the standings now. So yeah, McMahon in third. Caroni finished in fourth and Roland in fifth, but a lot of drivers got involved in crashes. Then there was, I think, a 16-car reverse grid. It was 17-car reverse grid. All right, there you are. So Tom Stevens took pole position, and he had a really good start to the race, to be fair. For an amateur driver, he's held on for a while. However, Jawad Karani managed to, Jawad Karani, apologies, managed to move up into the lead in the opening stages. I say in the opening stages, managed to make up a lot of places in the opening stages, and eventually got to the lead and pretty much ran away with the race. Finished 12 seconds ahead of Aaron Powell for Evo SR. Cyandra finishing in third position. Top of the amateur drivers ended up being Bob Humphrey. Damien Owen has, by the way, finishing in 7th place, despite the fact that he accidentally picked the Ferrari instead of the BMW. So he probably got the best result of anyone who picked the wrong car, if that's any type of trophy. There were a few retirements. McMahon had issues joining the session, I believe. Salt also disconnected in the end. So some issues for Jazz, but on the most part was a much cleaner race too. Was at Watkins Glen, and I don't know about you, Mark. I think we had a poll recently on Apex Racing TV where it was the best circuit, and Spa won. It was absolutely dominant, to be fair. But I think second place was Watkins Glen, and it really was it's a great circuit. I think it's certainly emerging as possibly the best circuit, the kind of circuit that you can guarantee a close race at. I think out of all of them.
And still, if I'm not mistaken, the most owned non-free track of iRacing on the roadside.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was, it's a logical choice in any series, you know. So, and I love racing there, and I love watching races there. Unfortunately, this one I could not because of some copyright strike which we are working to solve. Should be back online very soon. but it was when you modify the video, and it was to be precise, nothing happened. It's just some stupid decision by
I mean, if we
iRacing.
were being charged for 30 years in jail, that is what we'd be saying, to be honest.
I mean,
But trust us, nothing bad will happen.
who puts copyrighted music in their commercials that they want to play uh, to the other broadcasters? I mean, wow,
Exactly.
no, and I will leave it at that. You know.
Yes. And so have you ever come across the stats like guys, Marco? Because of course, in all your years of racing, as we've already established today, they are a properly good team. They now occupy the top 3 places in the championship. Unfortunately, aren't going to be there for next round because they do SCO. Um, but yeah, that's some competition. It was incredible actually to see the stats like and the Evo SR guys going very close. And of course, Evo SR are quite a new team. I guess it's quite a good benchmark for them this coming season for them to race against these very established drivers.
Absolutely fantastic teams, both of them. Of course, um, you know, uh, these are absolutely quick drivers and quick teams. Nice to have, it's nice to have some new faces that we don't necessarily see a lot on Apex Racing TV. Especially, I mean, Jawad Karoni is a fantastic driver. He used to do the Le Mans series with us a lot way back when. Now is it's great to have him here in Apex GT. So it's and I think the switch to GT only really made it for a better racing experience overall, if you ask me. You know. Multi-class is great, but sometimes it's a bit more, negatives than positives that brings on the table.
Definitely. And so in the championship, after 1 round, of course, 8 rounds of the championship, Jawad Karoni leading the way. Enric Andre in second place, Cyandra third, and Aaron Powell in fourth. It's ever so close. So a few issues for some of the EBS side drivers. Of course, Salts and McMahon having a bit of a tough time. Also, Lorero as well having a tricky race too, I believe. In the amateur standings, Bob Humphrey leading the way in that one. Stevens and Warren in second and third. Warren, of course, winning the amateur standings in race 1. And in the team championship, Stats Like Racing leading the way, but then Evo SR very close behind in second. The B team in third, and Indy Auto Sports White, and also Gold Racing Team Blue. All those teams very close in the top 5 standings. And of course, the next round of the championship will be at Road Atlanta. That will be pretty much probably by the time that we've released this, that meeting as well would have probably passed. But if it has miraculously posted this podcast before then, so you do check that out. And of course, after that, we'll be heading to Sebring during week 13 as well. That'll be a really good preparation for the 12 hours event. Of course, I certainly do recommend that. You can check out details on the championship on the Apex Racing League website. And so, Marco, it's it's the time of the season where we don't particularly look forward to be honest, because it's week 13 coming up, and not a whole lot of series necessarily to talk about next week. We should have a couple. So I think SimRacersWorld. No, they're going on a break. Apologies.
Yeah.
I think AOSC are still running though, and of course we will have ARL GT as well. But mainly we'll talk about the new content being released on iRacing next week. I mean, of all the content that is coming, is there anything that stands out to you which you're particularly excited about?
Yes, the GT4 car, absolutely, and the damage model on the KNN, which I'm really looking forward to. But more importantly, and again, there is nothing confirmed on this side, but logic, and I'm never wrong. makes me very excited for the possible updates on the AI side. This is the big change, of course, now in this week 13. I'm very happy because we have AI. So we can do some races, but of course, I would love to have some more traditional ovals to run my NASCAR races in, and maybe the F3 car so I can. I've already found on Trading Paints there have been some fantastic replicas of the new F1 liveries. So to have, I already did the 2020 F1 grid on the Skip Barbers, but of course the F3 would be even better in my opinion with a new damage model, etc. So it's going to be, I think, a little bit easier this week 13 than usual because there will be some stuff to do AI wise, and of course smashing those K&N cars. But as per every week 13, every couple of after a couple of days, you are really looking to go back into the groove of races, and not only as a competitor but also as a commentator. So, but also on the other hand, these have been very busy weeks for us here at Apex Racing TV. And I speak also on a personal note, and I know that the same has been for you because we did most of the broadcasts together, sometimes even twice per day. So for the first time in a long while, I've been feeling like needing a break for a couple of days. So in the end, happy. I'm sure that by the third or fourth day, it's going to be looking at the calendar. When are we starting? When are the races back on again? So it's not every week 13 is like this, but this is a bit better for the reasons I've just mentioned. In any case, cannot wait to come back. And still, of course, when this podcast will be out, it will probably already have happened, but we have a couple more races left, which of course is the Aussie Mixed and Fixed and the F3.5, which will end tonight, the day that we are recording, the 29th, by the way. It's a leap year. It's leap day. So, you know, just
We've just gained a day, haven't we? It's
yes,
madness.
yes, we have, and that's why I said when the races are on the 15th of May, 2020 on iRacing this year, it's actually not the real 15th of May, but it's. But yeah, that's
Did,
it.
did,
And yeah,
did they not? Do they? So do they have the 29th then on iRacing, or do they?
no,
Oh,
I think they have it.
yeah.
Otherwise, otherwise the calendar would be broken. So, and it won't work. So yeah, I mean, cannot wait to come back on track, as I said, and as I have been notified by my clock, we are striking the 1 hour mark basically right now. Therefore, the perfect time to say our goodbyes and leave our viewers until next week.
Yes, I think so. So certainly thanks for tuning in. Of course, if you like the podcast, please do leave a like and yeah, share it to any of your teammates, perhaps who you run in the same series as you, or anyone that would be interested. Certainly do appreciate it. And of course, do check out all our broadcasts in the coming week on the iRacing Esports Network and Apex Racing TV. There'll be less of them, but there will still be a few. So certainly do check them out. And of course, we'll be back once again next week for a week 13 review, along with this couple of series which are still yet to be completed. But from me and from Marco, we'll say goodbye, and we'll see you next week for another podcast.